I was like a really good player.
Just the appreciation of basketball at all levels.
Yeah, I'm a player. I feel like I just gotta get on the court. You know, I feel like if I get the opportunity to get on the court, that's where the name comes from. Everyday guys and the everyday conversations we have. Welcome to episode 8 of the Everyday Guys. For this episode, we have a very, very special guest. My good friend, college teammate, Mr. John Mooney, Mr. Double Double, currently playing in his 5th year overseas, killing it. I think he has a lot of very insightful information on how to be a successful pro, and he can speak on his journey, which has been an extremely successful one. So, John, thanks for coming on the pod, and we're lucky to have you, man.
Appreciate you boys having me. I didn't know this is episode 8. I think it's a little crazy that we had to wait 8 episodes, but you know what? I'm glad to be here, man. Let's chop it up.
We tried to build a little bit of a following, first 200 people before we, got you on the show. So,
all right.
So you're currently in the preseason. You're in your 4th year in Japan. How's the team coming along?
It's good, man. Starting year 4 out here. Just grinding through the preseason right now. Got a new coach, got some new players. It's been good though, man. We've been going for like 2 weeks. Squad looks pretty good. Had a game today, preseason game. Got the dub, so we're looking pretty good.
Do you guys do a lot of the same stuff every preseason, or just because you guys change coaches, you like, is it kind of boring with the whole process, or do you have kind of a
So this coach, like, his philosophy from our last one is definitely a little different. Like, practices are more competitive, more live. Previous coach, you were in there and he was all about the structure and explaining things and actually coaching. Like, he would stop practice a lot and talk, which, I think there's pros and cons to both, where the guy now, he kind of lets us play the whole practice. He doesn't really, 2 hours we're up and down the whole time, which is, I like it that way.
Sure. Ray, what was the question you asked me about how coaches approach preseason?
No, it was about coaches. Some coaches are different, right? Like, some coaches will try to win everything in preseason. Some coaches will try to just, I guess, try shit out, right? Different lineups, and whether they win or not, it doesn't really matter. Like, how is it over there? I mean, I guess every coach is different, but talk to me about your coach.
Yeah, so this is his first year with the team, so I think he's done a really good job of coming in and, like, I actually played for the guy. I played a year in Australia, and I played for it in Australia. Right. He's a legendary coach in Australia. Like, the Australians love him. He won, all these championships in Australia, and then now he comes over to Japan, completely different country, completely different culture, and he's not the man anymore like he is in Australia. So I think he's done a good job of assimilating and getting the guys to buy into his system, which is a great system, I might add. I really like him. I really like playing for him, and I'm glad that we can do it again. In terms of everything in practice is competitive, which I like. Everything is on the scoreboard, and you're getting graded, and every drill there's a winner and a loser. I really like that. In terms of the games, I think as a player, for me, obviously preseason is necessary, but me personally, I'm doing what I need to do to be ready for game 1 of the regular season. I don't know, Nick, if you have, insight into that. Like, as a player, are you grinding before game 1?
When you're saying getting ready for game 1, do you just mean not beating your body up physically, so you're ready to go for the regular season, or you're trying to mimic the preseason games as if they're regular season games? Like, what
Both.
Both? Yeah, I mean, I feel like for you it's a little different because you've now been there and you're going into your 4th year, where in my situation, I'm going from team to team. So a lot of the preseason, unfortunately, even if you are coming in with an expected big role. A lot of the preseason requires you to try and solidify that role and let guys on your team know, you're the guy that does this, you're the guy that does that, and you try and kind of build that team chemistry through the early games so that when the regular season comes, there's no questions asked with, who can do what. So
For sure. No, in Japan, we play 60 regular season games. And not to say that every game isn't treated as important, because it absolutely is. And like management, coaching staff, players, everyone knows that every game's important.
Yep.
It's a longer season. So like maybe you do have more time to gel than other leagues, because you said you play 36 games.
Yeah.
Those games, every game matters that much more than a 60 game season, I guess, if you think about it like that.
But I mean, I'm sure, but psychologically, like when you first went to Japan versus like you're now going into your fourth year, you're established. It is a bit, I don't know, I would think it's a bit different psychologically.
No, for sure. And I think, like Nick said, anytime you join a new team, it's kind of like you have to prove that you hear like, oh, I belong. No, I have to kind of get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that I don't feel that way now, because I do. Like I truly do. I just, I'm coming off 3 years, I would say successful years, and I just signed for 2 more. But my mentality hasn't changed. It's not that like, oh, I'm here, or I can chill now. Like absolutely not. Like that's not how I was raised. That's not how I got to this point. So nothing's going to change. Now in terms of preseason, I'm doing what I need to do to be ready for game 1.
I know it's early, but do you feel like this team you have now might be the best Chiba team you've had since you've been there, or is it way too early to tell?
It's early. I've talked to some of the guys about it, and yes, I do think we do have the potential to get there. We have had some really good teams in the past. So, and they're all, the makeup of each team has been different in terms of new imports coming in, new local players, new coaches. I've had 3 coaches in 4 years. So, everything is a little bit different now. I do like our system. I do like our roster, and I do think we can be, I think we can compete for a championship if everything, works out like you need within a season.
We'll definitely get back to Chiba and more specifically some off-court stuff and life in Japan, but just wanted to bring it back to where me and you met, good old University of Notre Dame. So originally you were committed to the University of Florida, decommitted, ended up going to ND. You were, a stud in high school. However, like most guys' careers at ND, the first year or 2, you didn't really get that many minutes, right? Talk about kind of the process of how you stayed engaged and focused those early years at ND to be ready to step into a huge role like you did your junior year.
For sure. Like I remember going into school thinking that, okay, I'm not the guy anymore. I'm not. And I had the wherewithal to understand that I'm not the guy anymore like I was in high school. I'm coming in and playing behind Bonzi Colson. He was a all ACC guy. Nick, you're obviously very familiar with him. Duke and ball. You're a league guy now. I knew like, okay, I'm not going to be getting major minutes. I'm not going to be starting. And even the fact that I knew that, I knew that, and I had the whereabouts to know that, it was still extremely hard. Yeah, like I think as a hooper, you have like in your head, you're like, damn, I need to be the guy. I need to be playing. I need to do this. I need to do that. So the first 2 years were definitely tough, and I look back. Obviously, Coach Hump was great. He was our assistant coach there, and just in your ear every single day, helping you. I also remember looking back at guys that had success at Notre Dame before us, who were kind of in our same shoes, didn't play a lot as freshmen, didn't play a lot as sophomores, but had these breakout junior and senior years to get them, success playing professionally. I definitely remember looking back on like their stats, pro ballers, like all that stuff, looking at their stats freshman and sophomore year, and then what they did later on.
So through that process of the first 2 years of not playing, obviously you practiced with, like you said, some really great players, guys who are playing EuroLeague, have great overseas careers. What do you think was the biggest adjustment that you felt being a big man in the ACC? I mean, obviously the physicality is, as everyone knows, is a different beast. But was there something more, detailed or specific where you really felt like you needed to improve in order to be ready when your kind of chance came?
Yeah, I mean the speed and the length and the jumping ability is just like that's nowhere close to what high school is or was. It's I think the difference between high school and college, especially at a Division I level, is a lot bigger than college to pro overseas level in terms of athleticism and size and all that and speed. The NBA obviously might be different, but I remember just like in high school, you don't even think about it. If you're in the lane, you just go up because you're taller and bigger and stronger than everyone, right? And you can finish. Whereas in college, I'm getting my shot blocked left and right. I'm not finishing anything because I'm rushing it. So I remember like just finishing around the rim being a big, big, big adjustment.
Being able to do it quicker and
quicker and like maybe instead of trying to jump over guys like you can in high school, maybe developing a floater to where you can just shoot over guys or, get on the glass instead of trying to dunk everything.
Yeah. I think one thing that I at least took from you, even though we were in the same class, which I think you did well and it probably helped you. I feel like your workouts are very simple, but extremely game oriented and focused. So, a lot of guys do all kinds of drills, work on all kinds of parts of the game, but then chances are they don't really get to showcase much of that, especially with limited roles like we had early on. I think you do a great job. You did a great job and probably still do of realizing what kind of shots will I get in game, how often will I get them, and where do I need to be efficient. And I think that's something that young guys can learn from. I'm sure you can talk about it a little bit, but just like the process of how you get better behind the scenes.
No, for sure. I think like I picked that up pretty early, I would say, like in high school. I had trainers helping me out throughout high school. We were never doing like, all these crazy ball handling drills, never doing like anything that I wouldn't do in a game. If I was going to do it in a game, we would rep it hundreds of times. But if I was not going to do it in a game, I wouldn't do it. And I took that obviously to college. To this day, like my workouts are, I would say, shorter than most. Like they're, it's 45 minutes hard, and all of it is game like stuff that I would do in a game. And I mentioned stuff around the rim, like finishing and whatnot, floaters. I spend a lot of my time on floaters where pick and roll, just simply going up with a floater instead of trying to put it on the ground or, trying to jump over guys, like having to touch around the rim, both hands. We've actually talked about that. I shouldn't say both hands, just my right hand. But yeah, like whatever I do in a game, I'm going to do in the workout.
I mean, that's something that I try to do as a trainer. Our workouts are not that long, but I try to keep it simple. I try to do in-game stuff. But I mean, I find that some of these high school kids nowadays, they just find it that it's not that they don't find it boring, right? But they think it's like it's too repetitive and whatnot. But I'm just telling them, man, like you're gonna put up numbers, you're gonna get better, you're gonna actually use those moves. But now it's a different world with all these trainers, right? Doing.
I mean, I guess like I'm also a different player. I'm not
for sure
a bop isolation guy, and I know that. Yeah, I've always known that. So actually, the good question as a trainer, where's the fine line between like doing too much and then just simply keeping it simple? Because as a hooper, like you do want to bop a little bit, especially if you have that in your game. As a trainer, how do you go about that?
And I mean, before you answer, I want to add like a second question to that, just because you've trained me for a while. Not in my early stages, but IBSA, a lot of players from IBSA get the rep of like very fundamentally sound players and playing the right way, but lacking a little bit of the bop type of thing. So just to add that.
No, for sure, like obviously the base is the fundamentals, right? How to catch the ball in 2 feet, what your stance is looking like all those things are obviously vital to being a good player. But at the same time, I find that I add some of the movements that, when you're doing it as a drill, it might look weird, it might look really, really unique, but at the same time, you might use in the game, right? Different movements. I'm not talking about crazy 7 dribble combo and getting to the basket. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about like just like, I guess, different movement patterns that you might use in the game, right? And I also always preface it with the players too, being like, man, like you might never move this way in a game, but you might also. But I think like, you go back to the fundamentals being just the most important thing to go about, right?
I had my coach last year was big on like defensive footwork, right?
Mm.
And he had these defensive footwork drills that were not simply defensive sliding. You were doing these like crazy shuffles, like crossing your feet. And the first couple of times I'm doing it, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like this is a waste of time. But as the season went on, I played for him for 2 years. I do believe my defensive footwork got better. And kind of similar to what you said, just because, you're doing some sort of combination that you may or may not do in a game, you're teaching your muscles in your body to be able to like move a certain way that will help in a game. So there is a fine line between just doing only the simple stuff and then getting a little bop.
Yeah, I would say,
yeah,
go ahead. Keep going.
I was just going to say, I land on the side of simpler, works for me. For everyone else, it's obviously, different. But
Yeah, I would say it's a split of like 70-30%, right? 70% you work on your go-tos, like your fundamentals and the stuff that you'll use in the game, but 30%, like you're just I guess you're preparing for the stuff that you might not do, but then it's likely that you'll do it, right? Like
right.
Like I was teaching this week. I was teaching closeouts, right? And you know how the traditional way of teaching closeout is, let's go choppy step, and then get your hand up. But when you actually watch people people who are good at closing out, do they really do it that way, or do they just run and just stop? And then stop on a dime and then contest a shot and maybe attack the ball or whatever, right? So I think there are things that we, as coaches and trainers, that we do just traditionally. This is how we're taught to do, and this is how we teach our kids. But at the same time, like if you do a little bit more research, you can teach them in different ways, right?
I also think whether you're a guard, whether you're a big, whether you're a traditional player or more of a, let's say isolation guy, one of the great ways, and Ray do a good job of this, to keep the workout simple but still very game-like, is having live defenders. And that doesn't have to be a full-on defense, the defender trying to get a stop, but it could even be drills. Ray, I don't know the one that we have, where you attack, let's say I'm attacking you, and you lift up your right arm, and you point, and you have 2 fingers up, and that means go under your right arm and do through the legs. Things like that make you kind of think on the go. And then from the defender aspect, just having like a body and someone in front of you, I think you can still keep the thing simple, but be able to really mimic more of a game-like practice.
I agree. It's just like it's simple reads, but at the same time, like you do activate your brain a little bit instead of just let me just go through the motions.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like reaction, right?
Yeah.
Like when you get into a game, everything's reaction.
Yeah.
Literally everything. Like from the time the ball goes in the air, everything's reaction. If you really think about it. So like training that in a workout definitely will translate to the game.
Speaking of simple things, one of the the staples of your career and why you've been so successful, I feel, is the ability to do one simple thing very well, and that is rebounding the basketball. You broke Tim Duncan's ACC double-double record. You were a beast in Perth double-double. Did you average a double-double all 4 years or 3 years in Japan?
Yeah.
So it's safe to say that over the better part of this decade, you've averaged a double-double. And that's pretty wild to say because you played extremely high-level basketball. So my question to you is, the art of rebounding, to you, what does it mean? How do you do it so well? Is it a skill? Is it just a desire to want the ball more? Where is your head kind of with that?
I think, like, for me, I've always taken pride in it. Like, I even remember middle school, high school games. Like, I've always taken pride in rebounding, and I think that's a skill that translates to any level. I truly believe that. People say that sometimes, but like, I firmly believe that. Obviously, you have guys who can fly above the rim and grab stuff that's above the rim. But if you really, really look at it, most rebounds, I don't know the statistic on this, but most rebounds are below the rim. Like, yes, you have those guys who come in and fly and grab rebounds, but most of them are below the rim. What that means is it's just like, in the wise words of Mike Bray, hand-to-hand combat. Like, when you're down there, like, you're battling with your guy, and then it becomes a pride thing. Like, who wants the ball? I guess I've been blessed with a knack for the ball. It's something that I can't really explain. Like, I find myself in the right spots when a shot goes up and when a rebound comes off. But for me, it's all about doing your work early. And I've told people that it's like, when I anticipate a shot that's going to go up, a predictable shot, whether I'm on offense, whether I'm on defense, I'm getting in position before my guy is. And so these, like, I'm just comparing it to, I think it might have been Rodman or one of the rebounding greats. They said they like practiced someone would shoot the ball and they would kind of sense which way it would come off the rim. But from my understanding, it seems like a lot of that might be like instinctual with you, where you kind of just have this knack to gauge where it may end up. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, that's another thing too. When a shot does go up, I mean, we're talking about a split second here. Like, when it's in the air, I do try to give it a look just to see, like, oh, that's short, or that looks like it's going to miss long, like whatever. I obviously don't really think about it during the, when it's happening, but I do catch myself doing it. So maybe, yeah, I guess it is just kind of instinctual. I don't know. Yeah, I guess reaction, like we just said, it's reaction, man.
Yeah, it's interesting though. You said rebounding translates to every level. I feel maybe Ray can speak on it more because he's dealing with high school kids. But the way basketball is shifting, the hybrid big or the guard big is much more popular and prevalent at the highest levels of basketball. And I definitely think the traditional big man, in a sense, the rebounding beast is definitely a slight lost art, where, like you said, it can translate to every single level, and not only translate, but you can use that as a calling card to make a ton of money overseas.
That every single person wants to be a guard nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm 6'9", I'm 6'10", I want to play the 3. I'm like, why not? Why not the 4-man? Why not the big? Why not the center? Like, why not? But they have this stigma that, like, even parents, they're like, oh, my kid is 6'10", but I want him to play the 3. Like, he has no skills being the 3 or the 2, but I want him to play that position. That's gonna be his natural position. Like, I don't know where. I thought about this a lot. Like, I don't know where it came from, really. But nowadays, everyone wants to be a guard. Everyone wants to, step outside, do all these moves. Yeah, I'm not sure what the reason is, but nobody wants to rebound. Nobody wants to get in there and go to block. Like, nobody wants to do that. It's
well, I mean, Mooney can go after, see what he thinks, but my whole idea is that it's always been the case. The lower levels of basketball try to mimic the highest levels of basketball. And I think the NBA has shown a trend to where they value these hybrid bigs more. And you have guys like the elite examples, the KD, the Wembanyama, like these guys that can do everything, right? And then these kids who do not have that level of talent, in their mind, think the best way to reach the NBA or whatever level they want to go to is to mimic the mold of what the NBA values. And that's kind of where I think the disconnect between what kids should be doing and what they want to do is. I mean, I don't know what you think, Mooney, but that's kind of what I've.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge reason why the rest of the world has caught up to the NBA, to America, because American kids grow up watching these unbelievable talents, Steph Curry, Durant, like you just said, who, yes, they're the best players in the world, but they are one of one. Truly, those guys are one of one. And like, as a kid, yeah, you should have role models and you should absolutely be watching high level basketball. Yes. I don't think it should only be for like the skill factor. You know, there is a, maybe this is a lost art of like watching basketball and watching the beauty of basketball. The 2014 Spurs, like that team was so fun to watch because they played five guys as one and they all knew their role. I think maybe in today's age, the younger generation's like, I just want to get buckets. Like, I don't need to have a role. Like, I just want to get buckets simply, whether you're a guard, whether you're a big, like Ray said, like, I just want to be on the perimeter getting buckets. And that's probably due to the Steph Curry, Kevin Durant effect.
It is such a disconnect though, right? Like, because NCAA guys look for big men that are tough, and you can be a little bit hybrid, but you got to be able to rebound. You got to be able to bang with bigger guys inside. But it is such disconnect, right? Because the high school guys are looking at NBA guys, and they're trying to be them. But then their next step is to go to NCAA and play college basketball, right? So I don't know. I guess there's not a lot of solutions to be talked about. But I do think that I also do think that, like, from a young age, you're talking club basketball, and you're going into your freshman, and then your club basketball coaches playing you at the 5 position when you're only 6'2" because you're the tallest guy, and I think the stigma of playing the 5 is a bad thing kind of comes about as well, right? So there's kind of both sides, right? Youth basketball, they tell the kids that playing the 5 is bad, and also they also look at the NBA and be like, yeah, I want to be like Kevin Durant.
Right. I mean, I also think anytime you, as a player, go up in level, so from grade school to middle school to high school to college to pro, if you're a good player, you're going to go up in level. But when you do that, your role changes. Your role, even though you might be the best player as the high school player, when you come into college, you're not that guy anymore. Now, there are obviously examples, the top 10 picks, those guys are the outliers in this comment, but you have to figure out a role or a skill that's going to get you on the court. So for me, Nick, we're talking about Notre Dame. Like, when I got to school, I thought I was a stretch 4. I really did. Like, I was shooting the 3 well in practice. I was shooting 3s left and right. And I remember Coach Bray sat me down one time and he was like, look, like, I want you to shoot the ball, but I think your calling card is going to be mucking it up down low and like getting on the glass. And not that changed my outlook or anything, but it definitely did like flip the switch to my head. Like, okay, if you want me to be on the court, or if I want to be on the court, you're the head coach, you're telling me to muck it up down low. Let me go muck it up down low and get it on the court. And then I can maybe stretch the defense and shoot some 3s. And then I can, get active, but you got to get on the court first.
I think what you just said is the right way to go about it. But a key thing that's missing in this is that you had the maturity to listen to what he said and understand that he wanted, that it was behind good intentions to try and, help you get on the floor, where that conversation could have went just as bad to where a player could have been like, coach doesn't see me for the player I am. And, oh, after so, and then that creates a negative spiral to where you probably create this disconnect between player and coach. And it's these little fine things like that conversation that could have been a stepping stone in your career, a turning point.
It probably was, yeah.
So speaking of Notre Dame, you had a great junior year, great senior year, first team All ACC, capped off a great college career, and you begin your pro journey. So you touched on it earlier, but you ended up going to Perth in Australia. Kind of explain the process right out of college. You had some NBA workouts. You were probably gaining interest from a lot of the teams overseas. What kind of went behind the decision to end up in Perth?
So our last game that season was the ACC tournament game. We just won, and then it got canceled because of COVID, and the whole world shut down, as we all know. The draft process shut down as well. So there were no workouts. There was no Portsmouth. A guy like me, a 4-year guy, I needed that opportunity to go into a workout setting, into a Portsmouth setting. Didn't get that opportunity. And look, it is what it is. I truly don't lose sleep over it anymore. But in terms of the Australia decision, that decision was, could I go play in the G League and maybe, get on a roster, the G League route? That was an option. I didn't like that path because I don't think my game fits well with the G League style. So I said, okay, let me go over to Australia. Let me go to a well-respected league. Let me go to a high-level league with really good players. Australia is always in the top 5, I would say, in terms of national team rankings. So what that means is that their local players are really good players. They bring in good imports. And I saw it as an opportunity to jumpstart my career professionally. Maybe had the chance to get back in the NBA, maybe. But because going over to a well-respected, high-level league, if you play well, it can jumpstart your career overseas as well.
Did you find it was a relatively easy transition from? I know you had an amazing season with Perth, so I'm guessing you just kind of put your head down and went to work, and you found everything you did in college could translate well overseas.
Yeah. I would say at first it was tough, like anyone's, journey overseas might be. You're away for the first time, away from family, away from friends. It was COVID, so there wasn't much to do. It was a lot of waking up, go to the facility, go to your apartment, go to sleep, wake up, do the same thing over and over again. And that part of it at first kind of, it was hard. I do think it definitely was. But at the same time, it did force me to really lock in. And all I was doing was playing ball. And looking back on it, it kind of was like ignorance is bliss, maybe, where I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm fresh out of college. I'm by myself in a foreign country. I don't really know. I don't really know what's going to happen in my career, but I was just let me lock in and grind and try to play well. Unfortunately, I was able to do that.
I think this next part is important because I obviously know, we've been friends for a long time, so I kind of know your career and all the ins and outs of what's happened. But I want you to shed some light on the NBA Summer League. You had a great season with Perth, enough to land you on a Summer League roster. And I just want you to kind of share what that experience is like when you are on a roster, not necessarily as a main guy that the staff is looking at. Because I think the NBA Summer League, there's a little bit of a misconception to people who aren't really in the basketball world to what the NBA Summer League means.
Yeah. So yeah, like I just talked about before, going over to Australia, the idea of playing well. Oh, it might give me an NBA opportunity. Was certainly part of the cards and why I chose to go to Australia. So I go over there, I play well, check the box. It's like, okay, cool. Let's see what happens. Get a summer league opportunity. Boom, check a box. It's like, let's go. Like, let's keep this going. I get to summer league, and I'm thinking that I'm coming in as a guy that they just signed for summer league. I know that they have guys that just drafted. I know they have young guys in the system. So I get it. I'm coming in again. I have the whereabouts to know that like I'm not the guy. But at the same time, I'm like, we're going to come in there to this like little week-long training camp that they had before Vegas. I'm thinking this week-long training camp, we're going to be going up and down. I'm like, let's go to work. Like, let me show these guys what I have. We get there, and in, I think it was 6 days, we went live once for like 15 minutes. And it was a lot of drills and a lot of stuff that was tailored to their draft picks, their younger guys in the system, and never really had the opportunity to compete and show the team like what I was about, which is grinding. Let's go to work, So it was a little bit unfortunate. I do remember one thing in particular that will kind of shed light on how summer league is tailored for draft picks, young guys in the system. We were doing this drill in practice where you were in help. In an NBA, there's defensive 3 seconds. So like your foot has to be outside of the paint. And a wing drive, you're the opposite help side guy.
Yep.
On the opposite block, you come over, contest. That was like the drill, right? It was a help and contest drill.
A live drill?
No, it was not live. So we're doing that drill for probably a good like 30 minutes, right? Like it was a big deal to the team.
Yeah.
And we do get a chance to go live that day. And the exact play happens. I'm in help side on the block. Someone drives, weak side. I come over, contest, block the shot. This happened to be a draft guy or a young guy in the system. The next day in film, that play comes up. I'm thinking, oh, I'm about to get some cred. Like this dude's going to say, we did this drill. This guy was listening. This guy comes in, does exactly what the drill was made for. It wasn't that. It was to the draft guy, to the young guy in the system. We're going to need you to finish this.
I think that's the best.
So at that point, I'm like this is what summer league's all about.
Yeah. That's probably the best possible example you could have used to really go. Yeah, I think it's like I bring it up not to highlight that it didn't go well for you, but rather to just, I think people think you land on a summer league roster and all of a sudden it's from the first guy to the 12th guy. They're really looking at everyone equally and who can impact this team. But it's more like we have 2-3 guys we want to look at, and everyone else just kind of fills the spot.
Fill spots. Yeah. Now you do have exceptions to where guys get their opportunity and they run with it, and like it's really hard to like let that go. But I did have the chance to play summer league the following year, and I was just like, look, man, I just was in Japan for 10 months. Like, let me enjoy my summer. So you don't want to say you let it go, but you understand like what it's about, like it's for the draft guys and for the young guys in the system. That's how that summer league operates.
Do you think that type of experience kind of led you to think that, okay, maybe trying for the NBA isn't the best route for me, or maybe this isn't something that I really wanted from the get-go? Because I mean, everyone, I'm sure you guys all grow up playing, thinking that, oh, well, playing the NBA, right, at the highest level. But as a more mature man, you have experiences like that, and you go, man, like this isn't something that I really dreamed of.
Yeah, I mean, again, I never want to say it's like, oh, you're throwing your dream away, because I don't look at it like that. I really don't. But yeah, absolutely. It's like you kind of have to change your I don't want to say like change your dream, but it's like you have to be able to maximize what's in front of you.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't know if, not to say that I can't play in the NBA or I'm not good enough to play in the NBA. I truly believe that. I truly believe that there's hundreds, thousands of guys that are good enough to play in the NBA. Nick, I believe you're one of them. With the right opportunity, with the right system, there's hundreds of guys out there. But for me, it's like I have to maximize what's in front of me. I have the opportunity to go play in Japan, really good team, really good club, a place that I really like. Let me maximize it for as long as I can. The opportunity cost is giving up the NBA dream, but what is that? Is it going to play in the G League and playing in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and riding these buses? And you know, it's like that's the opportunity cost.
Yeah. I just feel like just talking to you for a little bit, like I feel like you have such good like self-awareness. Like you know who you are exactly, you know what you want, and this is something that not only do high school kids struggle with, but like I know guys that are seventh year pro in Europe. They're always coming back in the summertime, being like, "Man, like coach is not using me the right way. Like I'm not now. I'm this, but they think I'm that." When 95% of the people around you think, "Man, you're not that guy," right? So I think maybe this is a little bit of a stereotype about Americans, man, but Nick and I always talk about Americans being kind of delusional and not being self-aware. But I feel like like, how do you think that came about from your personal life though? Like, because it sounds like you were self-aware from such young age too.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like looking back, like I've always been like confident in who I am, and like um I think it goes back, and it's cliche to say, but it's like you trust the work that you put in, you're confident enough to go out and like do it. In terms of like self-awareness, it's just like you have to truly, I truly believe this. I tell myself this, like I just said it, but maximize what's in front of you. Like you have to understand what situation that you're in, and not to say that, oh, I don't want to, I'm in this situation, but I can be in this situation. Let me work hard to get there. It's like, yeah, absolutely. That's what life and that's what basketball is all about. But let's maximize this one first. Like let's do whatever I can to maximize this level, and then maybe you get here. Um, so I think like that's kind of my mentality. Maximize what's in front of you.
I think also you're selling yourself a little short to where players who are self-aware do a great job of two things: constantly reflecting, but constantly reflecting in an intelligent manner. Like there's plenty of players who self-reflect, but if they have incorrect ways of going about it, they self-reflect and they solidify the negative ideas or the incorrect ideas that they already have in their mind. You know, but I think all players who are very self-aware to the point where it helps their career, they're intelligent and they're able to reflect properly. And I think when you can do those two things at a high level, that awareness comes in and ultimately helps you in growing a career successfully.
For sure.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about NBA Summer League, and now you become basically almost a vet in Japan. You've been killing the league. We talked a little bit about this year's team, but just after you made your shift from Australia to Japan, I know you haven't traveled much around the U.S. before. What was? I mean, you're not just playing overseas. You're playing in a completely unique location to where the language, the culture, everything is so different. You know, so you're at the extreme. How was that adjustment for you? You know, playing in Japan.
Yeah, you know, I said like it was an adjustment going to Australia.
Yeah.
Like night and day different between my experience in Australia and Japan. Australia feels like you're in LA now that I look back on it. Like Japan is so different, and it took me a good like month or two to like really get my feet under me and like feel comfortable because, like you said, when I first got here, it's like, I don't know what anyone's saying. I can't read anything. You go to the grocery store and you're in there for 2 hours just trying to find your basic needs. And what I've learned is that the things that used to piss me off, the things that I felt uncomfortable about, culture differences wise, I've learned to like really appreciate and actually like love about the Japanese people. Um, Obviously the language I picked up a little bit, so that certainly helps, but like they're so rule driven here that you have to follow every little thing to a T. Like that's how they're raised, that's how they're brought up. And at first I'm like, God, I think outside the box a little bit, but it's like that's who they are, and that's why some of their Japanese guys here are so good because like they talk about roles. Like dudes over here know their role. They don't really try to get out of character. Like, and I think that's a really, really, really good thing. Like they know their role, they stick to it, they maximize it. They're within their like what we say, they're within their self-awareness zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. I mean, I'm originally from Korea, so I know Japan.
You're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so Japan's like, I think like an hour away by flight. But I've never been, but I know a lot about their culture, obviously. One of the cultures that's so impressive is they take pride in like taking over their family business. Right? So you see like restaurants, you see like little stores and this and that, like they've been, oh, my dad did it, my grandpa did it, you know, his grandma did it, you know, like just kind of taking it over. And then, you know, I mean, from my perspective, when I look at that, I'm like, man, like I want to do different things too. But there is something beautiful about keeping keeping the tradition about things, right? Because I feel like nowadays, you know, 2024, people are always trying to be innovative and try to do different things, but like the tradition side of it, that stuff will never go away, right? And it's important that these people are keeping that tradition and then kind of getting it going, though, right?
I've also picked that up like in terms of family. The Japanese people, they have like a deep sense of pride and like, I don't want to say like they probably feel it's like a responsibility to make their family proud.
Right.
And talk about tradition. Like I think that's pretty cool because like at the end of the day, like I want my family to be proud of me, you know, and I want my kids to feel that way. So I don't know, that's something that I picked up on that I thought has like been really cool.
No, I know you've been there now for a while, and life and everyday routine has probably gotten, you know, very easy, and you assimilated to where you're at. Is there still something after all this time in Japan where you're like, God damn, this still pisses me off, just like being in like the culture there?
Like trying to make a reservation at a restaurant. Like I said, it's like rule driven. Like you have to have a Japanese phone and a Japanese phone number to like be able to make a reservation. Even if you do it online, like my name's John Mooney, that's the only thing that's on the reservation. Like you have to have a Japanese phone number to make the reservation. So sometimes it's like, yo, like I want to come and eat your food. I want to give you my money. Let me get a reservation.
How do you go about it?
Like I'll have to have a teammate of mine like make the reservation under their phone number, under my name.
True. Just speaking back on the league itself, you've been in the first league in Japan now for a long time. Like you said, Japan in the overseas world gets a certain rep, right? It's where guys go in the tail end of their careers. They kind of go to maximize, you know, their earning potential at the late stage of their career. The import the import level with the bigs is very high. The domestic players, aren't very skilled. That's kind of the perception around the Japanese league. But I've watched your games and I've spoken to you many times, and you firmly disagree. So just kind of shed light on how you think the B League stands compared to the rest of overseas, most likely European basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do firmly disagree with that. I do think that it might have been true in the past, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. That might have been the case. Within the last 5 years, this is my 4th year here, and I would say I would have disagreed with that even before or my first year here. But now, the talent level that they're bringing in from an import standpoint is real. Like, these guys over here are really good players, EuroLeague, NBA guys that are coming over here to play. And then their local players. Truly, within the last 4 years, I have seen a huge improvement on their local players. And I think it's in large part due to the success of their national team. Their national team this past 2024 Olympics in Paris was the first time that Japan qualified for the Olympics. They played in Tokyo, but that's just because they hosted it. Right. They qualified for the 2024 Olympics, and you simply cannot do that unless you have good players. And the national team is obviously built up of primarily B League players. You have Hachimura and Watanabe, who actually joined our team, which is unbelievable, but primarily B League players. And for them to go toe-to-toe with France, should have beaten France. They're up 4 with 10 seconds left. They foul on 3. Overtime, France win. But that shows, I mean, that's it right there, how good the Japanese players are and why the B League is going like this. I truly believe that.
Speaking of the Olympics, 2028 is the next one. I heard some stuff about you trying to get a citizenship. Can we talk about that or?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be here for 5 years. You have to, you have to know language at a 3rd grade level, which, like, I tell my family and my friends back home, they're like, dude, that's pretty easy. It's like, okay, you're 12 years old, 13 years old. It's like, you know what a cup is. You know what a license, you know what a stove is. You know what a license plate is. You know what a car is. You know what a forest. Like, thousands and thousands of words. Not to mention grammar and kanji and everything. So, like, it is pretty tough. But yeah, like, that's something that I'm trying to do. A lot of guys over here try to do. So yeah, in theory, there is a world where I could be on that team, but there is, it's going to be competitive with the guys who are going to have passports at that time. So, like, it's definitely not even close to set in stone. Like, there's some really good dudes with the passport as well. So
what is like your number one driving factor to wanting to become a citizen? Obviously, I don't know what the rules are in Japan, but if there's guys in Korea, for example, that have become Korean citizens and they don't count as imports anymore, right? So
yeah. I mean, those guys, I would say at least doubles your salary. Like, the teams put such a value on those players because in Japan you can only have 3 imports on your team, but only 2 can be on the court at once.
All right.
So if you have a guy with a passport, that essentially allows you to have 4 import players and 3 on the court at once, assuming that that guy's on the court. So there's a big value for those guys, and yeah, I mean, that's obviously the biggest thing into why I would want to do it.
I know you don't like to look ahead, and the plan that you've set forth involves you being in Japan. Was there ever, after Perth and after your first year in Chiba, was there ever any desire to leave Japan? And do you ever see yourself possibly leaving Japan, or you haven't thought about it, or it's just kind of, you know, like you said, taking it year by year and seeing what happens?
I mean, I'm still taking it year by year, that's for sure, but I really don't. Like, I do really like it here. I love the team that I'm on. I've been on the same team now. This is my 4th year. So, like, I'm really comfortable with, obviously, the guys on the team, the staff, organization, and just like the city that I'm in. Very comfortable with it. Yeah, like, I mean, I would retire here for sure.
Just a few final questions before we wrap it up. One of the things you said when you were at Notre Dame and you weren't playing was that you had guys you looked up to who had similar career paths, that you were able to kind of be like, all right, it worked out for them, it can work out for me. Now you've played many years since then. You've established yourself as one of the best big men in the Japanese league. You have a path that you seem like you want to take. Do you still have, at this stage of your career, mentors and people that you try and kind of look up to or take advice from, or is it more just like now you're kind of on autopilot, you know what you want to do, you just got to go and do it?
It's a good question. I mean, like, in terms of my trainers back home, like, obviously I still talk to those guys, and I'll like send them clips and whatnot of certain actions, or, you know, basketball stuff. Like, oh, what do you see here? My trainer back home will sometimes watch some of my games as well. So, like, he'll hit me up. But in terms of like mentors, like, yeah, there's been some vets over here that I've played for 10, 15 years in Japan that I talk to in terms of just like the Japan side of things. In terms of like basketball, somewhat on autopilot. Like, I know who I am as a player, and like, just because I'm here, like, I still want to get here. I really do. Like, just because I'm a little bit established in Japan, like, I want to get here, and I also haven't won a championship since being here, and like, I do truly believe like this could be the year.
What does
I don't know, like,
does it mean championship? Is that what you meant?
right now, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and like being a guy who's like truly impacting a championship team. What about you? Like, do you have a mentor right now, or are you on autopilot?
I mean, I would say for me, the one guy I still listen to the most when it comes to my overseas career is Z, my trainer, from when I was a kid. I think just because he's been through it himself, and we just had such a good relationship over the years. I think whenever I'm faced with certain questions, obstacles, or just decisions to make, I kind of always honestly run it by him just to see where his head's at. And he's a very, very different person from me. So I think I see things in one perspective, and then I use him to shed the light on other perspectives that I think sometimes lack as a player. So it makes me be able to have kind of a whole rounded opinion, I feel. But yeah, outside of him, honestly, no one. I mean, obviously parents too, like life decisions.
Yeah.
And like strictly like basketball speaking, he's definitely the only one. Yeah. But okay, last question for me. I don't know if Ray has any more, but you've played here for a while. You're probably going to play in Japan for a long time. What does life after Japanese B1 legend status basketball mean for Mooney? What do you have? Obviously, it's a long ways away. Hopefully, that you have to think about this, but do you have any ideas of what you'd want to do after you stop playing pro?
I don't know, man. Use my Notre Dame degree to get a real job.
4 for 40.
4 for 40. Well, did you get your degree in your 9 years in college?
I managed to get it.
How many degrees did you get in 9 years? Was it 9?
Dude, 5.
Oh, dude,
I went 5 for 50.
yeah, you have 6 for 60.
Well, Northeastern.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I think about it sometimes. Like, do I want to coach? Maybe. I've we bring back Coach Hump, like our assistant at Notre Dame. He was like the bigs coach, and this dude was in my ear every single day, especially early on, like as a freshman and sophomore, helping me through that transition to where you're not the guy anymore. And he was in my ear literally every single day from my freshman year to my senior year, helping me out. Still talk to him to this day. That's a guy who impacted my life and changed it for the better. Like, I think being a guy like that, I do think I could do that. I have a, expertise about the game, obviously. And I think that would be pretty cool to give back. From a college standpoint, like, I don't know if I want to coach college now with everything that's going on, but it's a different game, it's a different beast. Training, like, yeah, I mean, I would love it. So probably something within basketball, but I don't know, man. If not, we'll see, man. Get a real job. I don't know. Open up my own restaurant. I have no idea.
Open up a restaurant.
That just reminded me when you were saying about coaching, if you aren't this crazy hybrid big man, crazy athletic, even though you're sneaky athletic, like you'd like to add, but you've been able to build a hell of an overseas career that's still growing. What advice do you have specifically for guys like you who may be very good at the little things, a traditional, more simple player? Don't mean that in a bad way. How do you think? What advice do you have for players like you to grow their career and get to your level?
Yeah, I mean, I would say truly, like, I know I said it before, but like, I tell myself, maximize what's in front of you, and like, whatever opportunity that you get, whether it's a job in Europe, whether it's a job in Asia, whether you're in college still, like, maximize the season that you're about to go into and see where it can take you. Like, in terms of what that looks like, okay, do the extra stuff, go and get extra shots up, go in and lift. And then when it comes game time, like, be confident in it. I think we can all attest to the fact that, like, when you get to the level that we're at playing professionally, the talent level from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 guys on the team, like, is not that different. It's the dudes who are more confident are the ones that, like, at the end of the day, are successful. It's like, be confident with yourself, trust the work that you put in, and maximize what's in front of you.
I like it.
I guess the last thing is anything you want to say to the Jets fans, Chicago Jets fans, what your goals are for the season, and anything you want to say. I know it's kind of corny, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this is a year where we really can compete, and love what we're doing in preseason. I think we're going to be really good. So hopefully we can bring home some championships for the Jets faithful.
I like it, man.
Is there anything you want to say? Is there anything you want to say for the Brussels fans?
For the Brussels fans, look, you're gonna get my best every single day. We're gonna be ready to work. We're a feisty team, and just like John said, he hopes to bring championships to Chiba. I hope to bring championships to Brussels basket. Thanks,
Do you
Bill.
have a mascot?
What'd you say?
Do you guys have like a it's Brussels basket?
Brussels basket. I just asked one of my teammates what our mascot was 3-4 days ago, and he kind of mumbled something, and I didn't want to ask him again, so I just left it at I have no clue. I was like, oh, okay. You know, you just
Like, okay.
I just kept. I still have no clue.
I'm sure you got that a lot, John, in Japan, being in Japan.
Oh yeah, you get a bunch of